Some enter Harvard through gates of legacy, others through doors of wealth. And then there are those like her who entered every night through the service corridor with a keycard, a mop, and a dream too fragile to speak aloud. Jalisa Morgan adjusted the faded collar of her janitor's jacket as she stepped into the marble silence of Franklin Hall, Harvard's elite mathematical sciences building. It was 1:42 a.m. Her shift had officially started at 12:30, just like every night. While the rest of the world slept under the quiet hush of privilege and certainty, Jalisa moved through corridors named after Nobel laureates, cleaning the footprints of brilliance off chalkboards and tile. She polished the doorknobs labeled with names like Dr. Elijah Renner and Dr. Carolina Lynn, collected trash filled with Red Bull cans and formula-covered napkins. No one ever greeted her, but she greeted them all silently with her eyes, with her reverence. Tonight, she swept with the same practiced rhythm until she reached room 3.24, the largest lecture hall in the building. Something made her pause. The chalkboard hadn't been erased. In fact, it glowed faintly under the left-on desk lamp, filled with a matrix optimization problem so intricate, so beautifully chaotic, she felt her breath catch. She knew this problem, or at least, she recognized its structure. Years ago, she'd seen something like it in an old MIT open lecture back when she still had internet at home. She dropped the mop, and then, quietly, like someone entering a sacred space, she stepped forward and picked up a piece of chalk. Her fingers trembled, not with fear but hunger. A hunger she thought had long been buried beneath utility bills and grief and forgotten textbooks. Line by line, she didn't erase, she added. In clear, looping script, she introduced a subtle adjustment, a shifted variable, a new boundary condition. Then she paused, stepped back, evaluated, adjusted again. This wasn't vandalism. This was music. It was memory. It was math. In a parking lot outside, Professor Elijah Renner slammed his car, trunk shut, and sighed. He'd left his only handwritten draft of his Cambridge symposium algorithm upstairs in 3.24. He couldn't risk it being copied or lost. It was the culmination of 8 months of innovation. At 2:06 a.m., he re-entered the building, irritated by his forgetfulness. As he turned the corner, a soft glow spilled from under the door. Curious, he pushed it open without a sound. What he saw froze him. A young woman, not a student gray janitor's uniform, completely absorbed in the chalkboard. Her back was turned. But that wasn't what struck him. It was what she was writing. She was refining the part of his model he hadn't yet solved. Her notations weren't just accurate, they were inspired. He stepped forward. She turned, startled. "I'm sorry," she stammered, backing away. "I didn't touch anything. I just—" "What exactly were you doing?" he asked evenly. "I was trying to understand," she said, barely audible. "It's a nonlinear problem, right? With a nested objective function." Renner's eyes narrowed. "That's not beginner's language. Who taught you that?" "No one," she said quietly. "I used to watch lectures. From the library. Before I had to drop out." "Drop out from where?" She looked at the floor. "High school. Senior year. My mom got sick. Cancer. I had to take over bills." Silence. Then he did something she didn't expect. He stepped to the board, studied her work, and picked up the chalk she dropped. He added a correction. Nothing major, just a coefficient that would have been covered in his most recent lecture. "You missed a constraint," he said. "But only because you didn't know I introduced it yesterday." She blinked. "So I was close? Closer than some of my graduate students." She swallowed hard. "I just wanted to see if I still had it. Math was always my language." He studied her, then nodded once. "Tomorrow, 7 p.m. My office. Don't wear the uniform. Bring your brain." And he left. For the first time in 7 years, Jalisa Morgan didn't feel like a ghost in the world of brilliance. She felt possible. Room 407 in Pierce Hall smelled of old books and ambition. Jalisa arrived 1 minute early, dressed in the only decent outfit she owned, a pale blue blouse and slacks from failed job interviews. "Come in," Professor Renner called. She entered tentatively. His office was surprisingly cluttered. Chalk scribbles covered the board. Paper stacks leaned precariously, and a mug that read, "Math is my cardio," sat beside a cold granola bar. "You think this is a disciplinary meeting?" he asked without preamble. She nodded. "If I overstepped, you did, but not how you think." He leaned back. "You didn't guess your way through that proof. That comes from immersion. So why aren't you in college?" She told him. The cancer, the death, the night shifts, the spiral, the silence. "I study still," she said quickly. "I download PDFs. I practice alone, but I'm just a janitor now." "No," he said firmly. "You're someone who learns without applause. That's rare." He opened a drawer and slid a slim folder toward her. "I had your name checked in the admissions archive. You were accepted to MIT. Full ride. Top 1% statewide." She nodded. "I turned it down. They never knew why. I know now." He flipped to the last page. "If she still wants in, let her in." "What is this?" she asked. "An unofficial endorsement. I submitted your name to Harvard's Extension School. If you pass the placement exam next month, there's a full scholarship waiting. Donor funded. No strings punto." Her breath caught. "Why?" Renner looked directly at her. "Because I've taught students with trust funds who can recite formulas but never ask questions. You question. You build. You push. If I don't fight for minds like yours, what am I even doing here?" She blinked away tears. "You'll still clean for now," he added. "But if you pass, you won't mop much longer." The next 31 nights became sacred. Jalisa worked from 6 p.m. to midnight, cleaning corridors and restocking soap. But after the last echo faded, she returned to room 2.14 with her notebook and whispered to herself until sunrise. The guards noticed at first. By the second week, they stopped asking. Her study desk became a fortress of coffee cups, half-eaten crackers, and chalk dust. One student once sneered, "A janitor doing calculus cute." She didn't look up. Renner checked in once, watched her from the doorway at 2:18 a.m., unnoticed as she mapped inequalities with trembling fingers. She wasn't praying, but it looked like it. By week 3, she nearly broke. Her hand shook, her vision blurred. "What am I doing?" she whispered into the quiet. Her phone buzzed. Hard problems don't get solved in one night, but strong minds don't quit. Yar. She didn't sleep that night. She solved. The placement test came like a reckoning. Room 501. 3 professors. 3 hours. 1 desk. No calculator. No electronics. Only a pencil, paper, and memory. The first problem was a maze. The second, a trap. The 8th, a mirror. A question that asked not for numbers, but for meaning. Her hands froze. Then her mother's voice echoed inside her. "You are always the brightest thing in the room." She answered. When she submitted the test, one professor leaned toward Renner. "That janitor girl?" "Really?" Renner replied calmly. "It means we finally remembered what potential looks like." 3 days later, an envelope slid under her door. Harvard Extension Program. Full scholarship. 1 line in ink. You didn't just pass. You outscored every applicant. She sat on the floor, laughing through tears. Her first day as a student came quiet. No aplausos. No parade. Just fluorescent lights, sharp pencils, and a heart full of fire. When group assignments were announced, a top student named Seth smirked. "That's the janitor, right?" Nobody laughed when only her group solved the bonus problem. "Who did this?" asked Professor Monroe. Jalisa raised her hand. Whispers turned into murmurs. Then silence. But brilliance is heavy when carried alone. She still studied in shadows. Still wore old shoes. Still walked hallways she once mopped. One night, Monroe asked to walk with her. "You embarrassed Seth," he said. He filed a complaint. "What did you say?" "I said, the board doesn't care what shoes you wear, just what you can build in them." She smiled. Slightly. Then came the midterm challenge, an unsolved problem posted online. A Ramsey variant with a time-shifting matrix. No one touched it. She devoured it. For sleepless nights later, she submitted a solution using harmonic folds in time-state logic. Renner called the next day. "It's valid, elegant, original." Then silence. "Seth accused you of plagiarism," he added. Her stomach dropped. "I'll show my notes." "You don't need to," he interrupted. I already did. You didn't just solve a theorem, he said. You reminded me why I became a teacher. A week later, her name appeared beside the problem on the university's wall. Solved by J. Morgan. No crowd. No noise. Just proof. An email arrived. Personal invitation, Dean Howell, faculty reception. She almost didn't go. She borrowed a dress, wore her mother's scarf, and stepped into the gleaming marble terrace. Dean Howell greeted her. From mop bucket to symposium, he said. Quite the story. She stiffened. I imagine you're aiming for grad school now. I haven't decided. He smiled. If you want introductions, this is the room. But he didn't ask what mattered. Later, a retired professor, Dr. Evelyn Marshall did. What were you thinking when solving that theorem? Jaleesa smiled. That some of us wait so long to be seen, we start thinking we're invisible. Marshall nodded. Then make sure the next girl like you doesn't have to wait so long. Days later, she was offered the Newton Hawking Fellowship. Full ride. Private stipend. Global platform. One condition. No work. No night shifts. No support group. No distractions. Leave the janitor behind, they said. She asked Renner what to do. They want the product, not the process, he said. But what do you want? 3 days later, she declined. I'm not turning down opportunity, she said. I'm turning down erasure. She returned to her shift that night, opened her notebook, and began again. No announcement marked her new role as guest lecturer. Just a message from Renner. Room February 14th, Thursday, 3 p.m. She arrived 10 minutes early. Same room. Same echo. Different purpose. This time, she held a chalk and wrote, What patterns do you miss? A student asked, How did you know you were good enough? She answered, I didn't. I just showed up anyway. Now, every Thursday night, room 2.14 stays lit. Midnight mentorship. For the quiet ones. The overlooked. The brave. And as Jaleesa Morgan writes another proof, another lesson, another name in the margins of history, she does so not as a janitor who became a scholar, but as proof that learning doesn't ask where you came from, only whether you're willing to keep showing up. And she always does.